I don't know why you dragged us out to the middle of nowhere.
Come on, change is good sometimes.
I get that, but we could have been happy doing our usual theme park thing. We could be waiting for illuminations as we speak.
We can't always be at a theme park. Besides, I think I might have the next best thing. Here, try this.
I seriously doubt a cup of coffee can make me any happier about our little adventurous expedition you have us on, let alone make me forget we passed up the Magic Kingdom for this.
Would you stop talking for 2 seconds and just try it?
Whoa, this is good. Like, really good. Where'd you find this, Starbucks?
Nope, this is Expedition Roasters, the artisanal roasters of specialty pop culture inspired coffees. You happen to be drinking Enchanted Tiki Coconut.
Wait, these are theme park inspired?
Yep, honestly, it's the next best thing to actually being in the parks.
What other flavors do they have?
If you want to embrace your inner Haunted Mansion, they have some Happily Never After, which features flavors of New Orleans pralines. And if you want to do your best Dapper Dan impression, you can grab some Main Street USA Colombian. And the best part is that all of their coffees are gluten-free and allergen-free.
That's fantastic. Let me see the bag. Whoa, these bags don't look like any other coffee I've seen.
That's because each one of the bags has unique custom artwork by guest artists. It makes it a little more fun to display in the kitchen than a boring bag.
That's cool. They're almost collectible. We're gonna have to buy more when we get home.
Well, since you like this one so much, maybe when we get home we can go to expeditionroasters.com and buy some more great coffee and maybe some fun mugs and shirts, too.
This means we can have theme park magic every day of the week. This is the next best thing.
Do you feel a little better now? You're caffeinated and you have a little bit of the parks here with you.
Much better. Maybe being out in nature isn't so bad after all. But I may prefer the animatronic animals better. This coffee may be the only type of adventure I need in my life. Start your expedition today at expeditionroasters.com and use coupon code DUO15 to save 15% off any purchase of Expedition Roasters themed coffees. Brew your happy place. Expedition Roasters, an adventure in every bag.
Hi, and welcome to the Theme Park Duo podcast. Grab your park map, churro, and hop in line with us as we take you on a coast-to-coast adventure through the world of theme parks, haunts, conventions, and more. Now, here's your hosts, Nikki and Gabriel.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Theme Park Duo podcast. I am Gabriel.
I'm Nikki.
And we are the Theme Park Duo. We have a lot of stuff to get to today. Like, a lot.
There's a lot.
Like, I was prepping for this episode, and I was stressed out about how much that we have to cover before actually getting into the meat of our episode.
We'll talk fast.
Yes.
But clearly. But eloquently.
I just just said all the information that we needed to get out before so let's go to the main part of our episode. Yeah, no, it's eloquently, let's get through it in a rapid pace.
Yes.
Yes. I did like this hand motion that no one could see, but like it's rapid pace.
Describing your hand motions, it does not add to the speediness of
rapid pace.
Just to let you know.
Rapid. Rapid. Anyway, so what's our first order of business here, Nikki?
That would be the exciting news that we have got some new partners for the show. We are partnered up with Expedition Roasters.
Yeah, so you may have heard the commercial at the top of the episode, so that's an indication that we're working with them. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, so if you guys go to expeditionroasters.com and go purchase some coffee from them, you can put coupon code DUO15, that's letter D, letter U, letter O, 15, and get 15% off any of your purchases on the website.
Yeah, and purchase everything. We tried so many of the coffee flavors. They are all so good. My personal favorite is Happily Never After, and it's got like hints of praline, and it is the most beautiful smelling coffee I've ever smelled. And I'm not exaggerating.
Yeah, and the thing is that like we're not sitting here trying to sell you this coffee without ourselves not having tried the coffee and not liking it. So a big stipulation for us is like when we start working with somebody, we don't want to say, hey, try out this crap, it's pretty cool, get a discount, and we don't really believe in the product. You know, I'm not going to sit here, Nikki's not going to sit here and say, go buy this product when we truly don't believe in the product.
Yeah.
We don't want you guys to have a bad time or to have a bad experience because of us. So we want you guys to go out and try this coffee seriously, because we've had a lot of this coffee, and it's unbelievably good. It's ridiculous. Like, I took Happily Ever After, and I took Redhead Rum to work.
Happily Never After,
sorry. Happily Never After and Redhead Rum to work, and people rave about it. Like, people are like, oh, did you bring the coffee in today? I'm like, what coffee? There's coffee in the kitchen. No, the coffee that you brought. I was like, oh, Expedition Roasters? Like, I tried to throw the name in. Like, yeah, did you bring it? I was like, oh, no, I didn't bring it today. It's like, oh, come get me when you bring it. Like, people are legit excited about the coffee when I bring it to work now. And the nice thing is that all of the bags are so perfectly themed and are interesting to look at, so they catch your eyes. So when I'm in the kitchen at work, people notice the bag first. Like, what's that? What are you doing? Like, oh, it's coffee. And so inevitably it rolls into that conversation.
Yeah, they're super fun bags, all of them.
Yeah. So we really love Expedition Roasters. They're amazing. They have a lot of really cool merch on the site, as well as the coffee. Make sure you head over to expeditionroasters.com. Use code DUO15 and get the 15% off of any purchase that you make there. Guys, trust us, you will not be disappointed if you love coffee. This is great stuff, and also brings a little Disney magic into your life, because it's all Disney theme park themed. It's fantastic. I feel happy in the morning knowing that I have that kind of at the beginning of the day.
Yeah.
So, it's all good. It's good stuff. Anyway, let's jump into, personally, my favorite segment of our show. And I'm so happy, because this is going to be the first time of season 2 that we're going to jump into Haunting Headlines.
I just want to say that it's also exciting that we are 6 months to the start of the Halloween season, pretty much.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ridiculous. Like, things...
We're past 6 months.
At this point, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, it's ridiculous how fast time flies. Like, it seriously feels like Scary Farm, Halloween Horror Nights, all that Fright Fest all ended yesterday.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. The fact that we're getting bits of Halloween Horror Nights news to tide us over until we get to Midsummer Scream, and then we hear all of the good stuff is fantastic. So, if you haven't heard already, Stranger Things is making its way to Halloween Horror Nights, not just in the States. It's going to Hollywood, Orlando, and Singapore.
Ooh.
So it's going all over the place. So for the first time ever, Universal Studios Hollywood, Orlando, and Singapore are partnering with Netflix to bring Stranger Things to life at this year's Halloween Horror Nights event. Fans of the series will get a chance to brave the upside down and confront the supernatural as each park debuts all new mazes inspired by seasons 1 of the critically acclaimed series. The parallel universe referred to as the Upside Down that terrorized the small town of Hawkins, Indiana in Netflix mega hit Stranger Things will bring the chittering, predatory Demigorgon to Halloween Horror Nights to stalk unwitting guests as they encounter iconic scenes, characters, and environments from the mesmerizing series. Working collaboratively with Netflix, along with the creators and executive producers of the blockbuster series, Universal Studios Hollywood, Orlando Resort, and Universal Studios Singapore will be authentic representations of Stranger Things designed to transport guests into artfully recreated scenes and storylines. So, this is ridiculously awesome.
It is so cool. And I'm gonna sound like a broken record. I'm sorry, listeners. The next 6 months are gonna be rough because I'm just going to be so depressed that I'm probably not going through this because I will have a newborn baby. Gabe will probably go once.
At least
twice.
once.
Yeah.
At least once or twice.
Yeah. But oh man, I love Stranger Things, and it breaks my heart a little bit that I'm not gonna go see it.
Well, we binged it. Like, we both binged both seasons.
Uh-huh.
So we know the show inside and out. We love the show. And I remember at the end of last season, not the show season, but like the end of last Halloween season, Universal Orlando tweeted out a photo of their globe upside down.
Yeah.
And just with like a really ominous, message. And everyone in that moment was like, we're getting Stranger Things next year.
Oh, yeah, we knew 100%. It was coming.
We knew this was
Yeah.
coming. It was the biggest thing.
Yeah.
So we're unbelievably excited that this is like cemented information now. Like we are getting a Stranger Things maze, and just in my mind, I'm thinking about the Demigorgon. I'm thinking about Hawkins' lab. I'm thinking about the forest, the Upside Down. Just
and
all
also,
this crazy stuff.
Now, from our experience from last year, knowing how differently, even though they do the same theme maze, knowing how differently Florida does their mazes than California, I'm excited to see what they do too. For the first time, I'm going to be watching walkthroughs. I'm going to be getting other people's, opinions and insights, people who actually go on it. I'm going to be like eating up every little bit that I can about Stranger Things over there.
Welcome to my life.
Well, now I know how different they are.
Yeah,
before I was like,
different.
Carbon copy, whatever. I didn't know.
Yeah,
I didn't know that they were so different.
Design team, different creative team, all that stuff.
Last year, both parks did The Shining. Couldn't have been more different experiences.
I personally really loved Orlando's version of The Shining last year.
Knowing how they take things and how their minds kind of, interpret things differently than what our park does. It's so interesting to see the differences.
Moving on, what's our next piece of information in Haunting Headlines?
Our next piece of information is that the Queen Mary is opening one more guest room.
Nope, so much nope.
It's the
100% no.
I would stay in it.
Yeah, you could do it alone and then I'll never see you again.
But it's probably going to be more expensive than their normal rooms.
Well, it depends.
And more haunted. It is the infamous B340. It's been a haunted room for years and years and years. There's been so many stories and legends behind it. It's been shut down for a long time because so many strange things happen there. It's been the inspiration for several mazes at Dark Harbor. And
Samuel the Savage, right?
Yeah, and they are opening it up for guests to stay in. I'm sure there's going to be a waiver, and it's going to be really expensive, but you know what? I'm predicting that it's going to be booked up for like the next few years.
Well, this is a very, very unique experience. They haven't had anybody in that room since the 80s.
Yeah.
That was the last time I think people actually spent the night in that room.
They have tours where people can go in the room.
Yeah, they do. They have tours where you can go in.
But it's literally just walk in, look around, walk back out.
And they tell you some stories of like what happened. But no one's spent the night in there for a long time. So if you're looking for an unbelievably unique, scary experience during this Halloween season, or even if you want to go do it during Midsummer Scream or some crap, I'm not 100% sure when this thing is opening up. When you could actually do it, because you have to call the Queen Mary to make reservations for this thing.
Yeah.
You could spend the night in room B340 and see what happens. Like, this room has been on like Ghost Hunters. It's been on a whole bunch of different like ghost hunting shows. It's serious business, guys. Serious business.
I got a creepy feeling just standing outside the room. So.
Yeah, so did I. I mean, I didn't like being anywhere near it. That could have been the fact that like we know what's happened in the room.
Oh yeah.
So we're both like, nope.
I would stay in the room one night. I probably wouldn't sleep
so
much.
Have the baby first. I'll hold the baby here, and then you can go spend the night at room B340, and then I will be safe here.
Okay.
In my home.
Okay.
In a non-haunted location.
Okay.
Because I don't want no ghosts like poking my feet and crap and like pulling bed sheets and crap. Stay away, ghosts.
Yeah.
Want nothing to do with you.
You hear that, all our ghost listeners? Stay away.
I think we just shut out a huge audience that we had that, now we're not going to get those downloads. I'm sorry, ghosts. I'm being very discriminatory against you, and I apologize.
So rude.
I'm so rude. Moving on.
Ghosts' afterlives matter.
Let's move on to a non-Halloween subject and jump into the Theme Park Bulletin.
Okay, first thing up on the Theme Park Bulletin is that Hangtime at Knott's has an opening day. It is opening Friday, May 18th. That's really soon.
Yeah, it's a lot sooner than I expected,
Yeah.
to be honest. I thought we were going to have to wait like another couple months or something. But it has been testing.
Yeah.
And they've been adding the lighting package to it and all, so I'm really pumped for this thing to open. Because we've been staring at it for a long time, it feels.
Pretty much the only thing that needs to be finished is like the actual queue area, the loading dock or whatever, all that stuff.
The loading dock.
Well, like the whole
the
queue.
Station, the queue.
Yeah, the station.
All that
yeah,
stuff.
that's what I meant.
That's the word you're looking for.
Yeah.
Yes. So all of that stuff just needs to be finished before it opens up, and then the lighting package needs to be finished too.
Mm-hmm.
I see them testing it every night. I don't know if that's because they're fine-tuning it, fine-tuning the timing at the top, because it just stops at it hangs.
Mm-hmm.
It hangs at the top. If they're changing how long that's going to stay there or things like that, or if they're just running it because it's running smoothly and they're testing its pacing.
Yeah.
See how it kind of changes in the times of like, okay, well, it's daytime. How does the temperature affect the ride right now, and how fast does it go, and
Probably
things
a
like
bit
that.
of both. Have we seen any pictures or videos of testing where they have like those fake people in it, like the sandbag?
Oh yeah, they've had them.
Yeah,
they've had them in there before.
I think that's funny.
Yeah, I always find it really. They're not they're the water containers.
Yeah.
Yeah, where that look like they kind of have like little nub legs, little nub arms.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, we've seen that yet.
Yeah.
Moving on from that, we're gonna go down the freeway to Six Flags Magic Mountain, where they have debuted a new VR experience called DC Superheroes Drop of Doom aboard Lex Luthor's Drop of Doom. So, as the world leader in ride innovation, Six Flags is taking virtual reality to the next level by leveraging the unique thrill of one of the world's tallest drop towers and adding an epic virtual battle of good versus evil aboard Lex Luthor's Drop of Doom. And this is like a limited time thing. This isn't going to be happening all the time. So if you want to go experience this, you definitely should go to Six Flags Magic Mountain to do it. So when anxious riders buckle up into their floorless seats and strap into their VR headsets, they are immersed into a 360-degree virtual world where they are unwittingly invited by DC supervillain Lex Luthor to test the newest LexCorp levitation technology. So, I'm assuming since it's a drop tower, you can kind of guess where it's going to go from there.
Yeah. Well, and there's a video, right? That shows...
There is a video, so if you want to watch the actual VR experience on YouTube, you can.
It's also on our blog.
Yeah, but if you're going to go on it, I suggest don't watch it. I mean, if you're not going to go on it, go for a watch it. But if you're going to go, don't watch it. Be surprised. It's going to be really, really cool. I can't imagine that we're going to catch this in the time that it's going to be there, just simply based on like what our lives are like right now.
I'm definitely not.
That's true.
Yeah.
And you love this ride.
I do. Well, I've only been on it once, but I really did like it. It's like Supreme Scream on steroids.
Every time we go to Six Flags, Nikki, you're talking about Drop of Doom.
I know, and
That's because
half
you
the times
love
it's
it.
closed. It was closed for a while for like refurbishment and stuff when we were there.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Yeah, and it never really worked out that I got to ride it a second time. but
you talk about it all the time because you liked it so much.
Like, I love Supreme Scream, and I love those drop rides, and this one's just bigger. It's like once it's like once you feel like you should be at the top, you keep going.
You're only like halfway there.
And then you keep going some more, and then you're like, okay, it's got to be close. And then you keep going, And I think that's what I love so much about it. And I have mixed feelings about the VR on it, because half the thrill for me was seeing how small everything got down below you, and you can see everything, and you're so high up, and just seeing it, it's even more thrilling than just seeing the sights on a roller coaster. You're going so fast on a roller coaster, but this is like the slow, steady, impending doom of getting higher and higher, and I feel like
on Drop of Doom,
and I feel like the VR could help that, because it's like you have no visual cue for when you're at the top, so you just feel yourself rising, and you never know when you're gonna stop. You might have some visual cues based on the VR, but it's still in reality you never know. And so I feel like it's a fun new take on it, that if it is limited time that it'll be there, it would be a fun thing to try out, and then you can go back to normal, so yeah, I'd say give it a try. It could be fun, a different experience, especially if you've ridden Drop of Doom a lot. So
yeah, and I mean, it's no surprise to anyone, and whoever listens to this show, how much I hate VR on roller coasters.
Yeah,
I think it has no place on them. I do not think it should be on any roller coaster that exists currently. I feel a little differently about a drop ride.
Yeah. You have more time for story.
You have more time for story, but then at the same time, it's it's a one-note attraction. It's like, you go up, you go down, that's it.
Yeah.
It's not like a roller coaster where you're going up the lift and there's this anticipation, and then you go down the drop and you're kind of seeing head chopper moments and other different things that kind of add to the experience visually on a roller coaster, other than like feeling like you're getting thrown out or 0 G's or a lot of G's and other stuff like that, you know?
Yeah.
I feel like this can almost add to the anticipation of getting to the top, because it almost lures people into like a false sense of security.
Yeah.
Because, oh, I'm watching this thing. You're so focused on watching the story. Oh, Lex. Oh, Wonder Woman. Oh, Superman. What's going on? And by the time that you realize that you mentally have come out of that story and realize, oh crap,
I'm up really high.
I'm up really high right now, and I can't see down.
Yeah.
That's when you drop, and it's terrifying.
Yeah.
So I feel like it adds a little bit more of the suspense level to it that can help, because the thing that something that you mentioned is like visually when you're on drop towers, you're looking at how small things get.
Yeah.
That's part of the cool factor of it. Me, it's a little different. I wear glasses. I can't see crap anyway. Everything just looks fuzzy. So this is something cool for me that I could actually look at and enjoy.
Yeah.
But when you're on the ride, you could kind of look to your right, look to your left, get a sense of when you're going to stop. In the VR headset, if you look up or to the left, you just see sky. Like, you don't see anything.
In Drop of Doom, you can't. It's not like Supreme Scream where you can really look at the ride behind you and see.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you're kind of encased in.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, then that's a little bit different. I haven't been able to ride Drop of Doom yet. It just hasn't worked out, like you said.
Yeah.
In that case, then I don't know. But I mean, like I said, in the VR, like, you look up and you just see sky. Mm-hmm. So you still have no sense of when you're going to stop.
Yeah.
You just keep going and going and going and going. And you still get that sense of being up high, because visually in the VR, you're looking down upon the city. Mm-hmm. Ooh, spoiler alert. So, there's a lot of really cool stuff to look forward to with regards to that. So, that's pretty awesome. And one last note, I actually messed up. I didn't say it when we were talking about Halloween Horror Nights. But right now they're having a great offer where you could buy a night at Halloween Horror Nights and get one free.
In Orlando.
In Orlando, yes. In Universal Orlando Resort. So if you go over to their website and they have that great deal, honestly, if you're going to go, take advantage of the deal.
Yeah.
You get a free night out of it. Why not? Mm-hmm. If we were going, I'd be like, gotta go within those dates.
I know. Kind of sad that we're not going because of that.
Thanks, baby. Well, it's actually our fault, but I mean, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, we could have done the math. We could have planned it for a few months later. We did not.
No, we did not. We didn't think about it at all. We just, yeah. So make sure you take advantage of that deal over at Universal Orlando Resort. But let's wait no further, because we can actually get into our main topic of the episode. What is EPCOT going to be like with intellectual properties, or IPs as people say? Should they be there? Should they not be there? Are they going to help EPCOT? Are they going to take away from EPCOT? You know, because the way EPCOT was developed was with a unique idea and outlook on what an amusement park, or what a theme park should be, and what it ended up being. And so now I feel like people kind of look at it as like, do not taint what the idea of EPCOT is with IPs. Because we know that Guardians is coming, we know that Ratatouille is coming, so that's two. We already have Frozen in there, and stuff like that. Is it going to improve it? Is it not going to improve it? So this is a really interesting conversation to have. And we brought along Stephen and Tiffany, formerly of Extended Q Podcast, to chat with us, because they're Florida people.
Yeah.
So they went to EPCOT a lot.
Yeah, they love EPCOT. They have their own personal connection with it. So it was good to get their point of view too.
So we have the point of view of people who grew up with EPCOT, and then the point of view of us, where we didn't grow up with EPCOT. So it's a really interesting kind of dynamic of our conversation, where we're coming from very, very different perspectives. Might be surprised on where we go with this conversation.
Yeah.
It was actually quite interesting.
Yeah.
It was hard to get a word in edgewise with Steven. Guy has a lot of important things to say. But I like that about him, though, because he says the right things. And it's really interesting to hear what he says. So, you might get to hear what their new baby has to say, too. It just depends.
Yeah.
I don't remember, honestly. We recorded this a while ago, to be honest.
He made a few noises, but I'm not sure if they were when we were just talking or when we were actually doing the show.
Yeah. Those things kind of get mixed up. When you record podcasts, like the on-air, off-air things kind of get meshed together a little bit.
Yeah, sometimes.
Pretty sure there was one episode where I made a joke about something we were joking about off-air.
Yeah.
It just fell flat because nobody listening to the show is going to get that because we didn't say it on the show.
Oopsie.
Whoops-a-doodles. So let's wait no longer and head in to our main subject with Stephen and Tiffany. So we're here with some really good friends of ours. They used to have a show called Extended Q Podcast. It was a fantastic show. No longer, obviously, around, but they're still around, so that's fantastic.
We are still around.
Still around, yeah. So we want to introduce everybody to our great friends, Stephen and Tiffany.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
My goodness, it's been a long time since we've done a podcast.
I know.
In fact, I think the last time I did one was probably the last time I was on your show.
Probably.
And
Probably.
the last time Tiffany did one might have been Extended Q. Like it's been a while since you've.
Yes, it has.
Yeah.
We got
Gotta
busy.
blow off
We did get
the
busy.
dust, get those cobwebs off, and get going again. Gotta get limber.
Yeah, which I mean we are severely out of practice, but I feel like we have good excuses.
Yes.
You know.
Yes, you guys have had a pretty big thing happen in your lives, correct?
We did. We have a son.
Yeah.
We have a child.
Yay!
He is so cute.
His name is Leighton. He is currently sleeping next to us, and I say that in big quote fingers. So hopefully he'll be okay. I mean, like, we've proven that, like, with our dogs, our corgis, they bark insanely loud, and, like, he just sleeps right through it, so I'd like to think we could record an entire podcast next to him, and he'll be like, all right, fine, you just do your thing.
I guess it just depends on your opinion.
I guess, although he is a little young to have opinions on some of the things that I feel we'll be talking about today.
That is a very good point.
Yeah.
And as we mentioned before on the show, we will be talking about intellectual properties at EPCOT. Just kind of if they're good, if they're bad, should they be there, should they not be there? I mean, we already know that it is there. Intellectual properties have been placed in EPCOT already.
Whether we like it or not, it's happening.
Yep.
Yes,
It's a
exactly.
jinx.
But before we get to that, my understanding is that you guys had a pretty fun trip to Orlando.
We did. This was actually a few months back. We had talked to you guys about possibly being on your show before, but schedules and like at that point, Tiffany, I think you were about 7 months pregnant.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Pregos.
yeah. So like she was in the if I'm not eating, I'm sleeping
Yes.
mode.
That's exactly what it is.
But yeah, we were down in the Orlando area back in September. It was right before the start of Halloween Horror Nights, so we didn't really get to do any of the haunt stuff there. But it was our first trip back in about 5 years.
And we got to go through a hurricane.
We did. We were there for Hurricane Irma.
I'm glad you survived.
We did. We survived. And we got to experience something that we haven't experienced in a really long time, which is what a theme park does when it shuts down for a hurricane or like when it preps for a hurricane. I will say the lines were fantastic
Yes.
because a lot of people are like, "Oh no, there's a hurricane coming. We better get out of here." But like a lot of Floridians are like, "Yeah, I mean, hurricanes are just boring. So pretty much until it shows up, have fun."
People
Yeah.
people were pretty much like, but there's a 5-minute wait for 7 dwarves, though.
I would say it was a 90-minute wait, but it wasn't a 3-hour wait.
Yes.
That's better than normal.
We actually, Tiffany, you didn't because
I
because unfortunately, her being as pregnant as she was not able to ride pretty much any of the
Anything.
major new attractions.
I'm sorry.
No.
I'm so sorry.
Actually, no. You did the Navi River journey at.
I did. I was allowed to do that one.
Pandora. Yeah, because that is a ride that is safe for expectant mothers. So there you go, expectant mothers. If you're like, oh, I'm going to Disney World, but I can't ride anything, well, you can ride the Navi River journey, and you rode Frozen Ever After.
Yes.
So we did that, even though there's a drop.
It's not a big drop.
No, it's like a Pirates of the Caribbean lip. Well, I mean, it's Maelstrom.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's
yeah.
Got to be very specific on that one.
Yeah.
pretty
which,
tide.
which I mean, I know that we certainly had opinions on a Frozen Ever After, and I think we'll jump into that once we start talking about the topic du jour.
Exactly.
if you will.
Now, I am a little curious. How was it spending your time at a resort, a theme park resort like this scale, during a hurricane? Was it scary? Were the employees pretty much on alert 24/7, focusing on the guests? Like, how was that experience?
Well, certainly coming from Vegas and just coming from the West Coast in general, where like we do kind of notice a difference in guest service between East Coast and West Coast. Not to say that people on the West Coast are mean, but
It's just a bit different.
But
Southern hospitality.
exactly, Southern hospitality. And I mean, this is something that we noticed a couple years back when we went to Dollywood in Tennessee. Like the people there were just, I'm not going to say obnoxiously nice, but like they were unrealistically nice. To the point that we're like, okay, something bad's going to happen here any moment because you're being way too nice. It's like, oh, okay, no, it's just the kind of person you are.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
It's like the Disney Kool-Aid cult.
Yeah. Except, like, they're not putting on an act. It's just...
Yeah, it's just them, actually.
It's just how they are. But we experienced a handful of cast members, or cast members, team members, because it was Disney and Universal that we went to, who were just at the absolute top of their game. They were, especially at Wizarding World of Harry Potter. Mm-hmm. They were really getting into it. They were really engaged with us. A lot of them were not too concerned about the hurricane because, I mean, there's a point when, you can only prep so much.
Yeah, and living in Florida, you just get used to it.
Yeah.
And even whenever we worked at the parks, it was one of those, you can only do what you can. You still have to go to work. You still have to do your job. And
yeah.
Again, you just do what you can, and then when, they say they're going to close, that's when you can go home and just kind of wait it out.
Yeah. Back when I worked in tech entertainment, I think the suckiest thing about preparing for a hurricane was kind of like tying everything down, in which, like, you'd have, speakers that are permanently attached to stands, so you have to cover them in trash bags, because, like, even though they are rated to be outdoors in bad weather, they're probably not rated for,
Hurricane.
Yeah, so like those 130 mile an hour gusts of wind, the sideways rain, that's always fun. Sideways rain.
Yeah.
But I mean, I will say that the parks were absolutely as prepared as they could have been. We went to Universal on the very first day we got there. By that point, there was actually a possibility that the hurricane was gonna leave and not bother Orlando at all. So like everyone's like, all right, great, fantastic, everyone's in a great mood. But then as the week got on, the forecast path started shifting further west, and suddenly the eye is going right over Central Florida, and like then people started getting a little nervous. Even I started getting a little nervous, but like I felt like I was only getting nervous because everyone else was getting nervous.
I wasn't.
Well, no, I mean, like by that point you're like, whatever, I'm here.
Tiffany's just like standing out in the open field, like, bring it on!
Yeah. The hardest part is going to grocery stores around that time, especially like even like all the Publixes in the area, just bottled water. Even like by the time we got to Orlando initially, bottled water was like almost like its own currency.
Jeez.
Yeah, and it's really just because the media and local government, and I mean like I don't mean to say that like an evil 4-letter word, but just like, they were making everyone aware. It's like, look, this is not a normal hurricane. This is the biggest one on record. It's coming straight for us. You need to be prepared. And so because of it, people were kind of freaking out.
Yeah.
But I can tell you that we were up in St. Augustine by the time the hurricane actually rolled through. It's like we were fairly north. Something a lot of people don't know about hurricanes, they just think that it is just a wave of destruction. It's actually a lot of boredom.
Yes. And hoping and praying that your power doesn't go out so you can actually cook.
Yeah, which I will say we got fairly lucky where we were, but I did have a lot of friends in the Orlando area that were without power for like 3 weeks.
Yeah, and I saw a lot of that on Twitter.
I have acquaintances that, they were surviving off of MREs for weeks.
Yeah.
So yeah, it definitely did get rough in some places.
It is also the kind of thing where like you will just gain weight. because
have
you
nothing
stock
else
up
to
on
do but
food, you stock up on non-perishable food, and non-perishable food is usually snacky junk food. So, I mean, I probably went through several cans of Pringles.
I'm
Lots of.
suddenly jealous of hurricanes.
Is that just the first day though?
It was like one of those things where it's like, oh my god, I'm so full from snacks. Oh, the hurricane hasn't even hit. Oh no, I'm almost out of food.
I should go out again.
Yeah. Oh wait, we can't because literally everything is closed.
Now, to touch upon another, you had mentioned just like the quality of service that you were getting.
Yeah.
We went to Universal Orlando for the very first time this past Halloween to go to Halloween Horror Nights, and it was the best customer service that I think we've ever gotten at a theme park. I mean, even to the extent that some of it was better than what we got at Walt Disney World for our honeymoon.
Yeah.
Wow.
I
Some
believe
of
it.
it.
Yeah. I mean, Universal seems to be in a fairly good place right now, or certainly better than they were. I think even when like you and I were there, Tiffany. And
Harry Potter certainly helped.
we can thank Harry Potter for a lot of that.
Yeah, pretty much.
But that for the longest time, I mean, even when we worked there, it was always this, you know, we are a great world-class theme park, but we're always going to be silver medal to Disney. But now Universal is, while I don't know if they have overtaken Disney, I mean, I think in sheer attendance numbers, they still have a long way to go. But
They definitely have a good running.
they're a hell of a lot closer than they were a decade ago.
Yeah.
And so because of it, there is a lot to be proud of. There's still a lot of expansion going on. Like I've heard something that they do plan to put like a new attraction in there like every year for the next or like for the foreseeable future.
There's
Wow.
also the rumored third gate
Yeah,
could be possibly going on as well.
yeah. I've heard possibly Nintendo.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is by no means official. I don't really have the internal contacts at like Universal Creative or anything like that. I'm just kind of going by the rumors that like I see out there. That
You mean you don't have the number of the person that gave you that information right in front of you, and you just happen to remember that information?
I know. I don't have that guy's number. I could probably find it with a quick Google search, but but like even then, I'm sure like if I start asking him questions, assuming it's a him, it could be a her. It could be a her. The first thing they'll ask is, "Who are you?"
Yeah, exactly.
And then I'll say, "Oh, I'm Steven. I don't have a podcast anymore." Hello, and then then it's over.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
But we're glad that you made it out of that hurricane safely.
Yeah.
Now you have a child. Everything is pretty awesome for you guys.
Yeah,
And
it's
we,
all right.
we are
It's all right.
unbelievably happy for you too.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yes. So moving from Universal, which is mainly like movie and film IPs,
Yeah.
to our main topic, which is EPCOT, which doesn't really have that many film IPs. It's kind of interesting how Disney is starting to try to incorporate all that stuff. And
Gabe, real quick,
As-
can I just ask, are you balancing on two wheels right now? Because that was a nice segue.
oh, yeah, it just happened to work out. I'm not
Yeah.
going to take credit for it at all.
Okay,
Like,
good.
usually my segues are terrible. I made a segue in the last episode about dead walking corpses and then Disney. I don't know.
You
It
know-
just- it
Well.
did not work out.
Not as far a stretch as some would imagine, I'm sure.
It just depends.
Yeah.
Just depends on where your mind is at, I guess.
Depends on the time of year. Like summer, everyone's like is a zombie. Like, I just need to get home. Why is this park still open?
But with Epcot, we brought you guys in specifically to this conversation because Nikki and I are California natives. We grew up here in Southern California with Disneyland and with Universal Studios, all that stuff. We don't know Epcot as well as you guys do. You grew up with Epcot. You know it really, really well. So we thought you two would be perfect guests to chat about whether or not IPs need to be in Epcot or not. So, do you have a kind of a pre-existing concept of what you think should happen with the IPs in Epcot?
I do. Tiff and I did absolutely zero pre-gaming before this episode, so like we're kind of actually that makes it more natural. We're actually having like
Yeah,
a legitimate conversation for the first time about it. I mean, IPs are kind of an acceptable reality at this point.
Yeah, pretty
Oh,
much.
yes.
Yeah, just because that's where the money is. And especially with Disney, that, now that they've acquired Marvel, now that they've acquired Lucasfilm, and the Pixar films are, always huge, and like even their own animated division is going through another renaissance again, which is wonderful. They have a lot to pick and choose from, and I mean, there are always so many people out there who go, hey, why did you wait so long to do such and such ride? And I mean, that was even a complaint that people had about Pandora. Was that, #1 movie of all time worldwide, but nobody really cares about Avatar anymore. Why are we doing a land on this? This would have been great like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Well, now they're kind of getting into that thing. It's like, well, yeah, we don't want to have that kind of situation again. And I mean, we have all these Marvel properties. We have all these things we're sitting on. We need to get those things in the park. We need to get them in there quickly, but we don't want to rush it. Now, I don't think any of the parks are really hurting for attendance in the grand scheme of things. I mean, every once in a while, I check to see how the wait times are on those rides, and I can tell you that when I lived there, lines were never that long.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that, Test Track is like consistently at like a 60 to 90 plus wait. When I'm like, geez, I remember times when Test Track was a 30-minute wait. I remember times when like Maelstrom was a 15-minute wait.
Rest in peace.
Yeah, rest in peace. And like now you got Frozen Ever After, which is consistently 90 plus, 2 hours plus. Now, as I said earlier, we have our opinion on Frozen, the ride. Tiffany, I don't know what your exact opinion is, so I'll just say mine, and we'll say if it's different. I do think Maelstrom was an attraction that needed to go. I know that's a very unpopular opinion because people love their anorexic polar bears, Vikings, and oil rigs.
Oil rigs.
But it was dated. It did kind of stick out like an oddly sore thumb, and I know there's a lot of controversy because Arendelle, the location of Frozen, although it is Norwegian inspired, it's not Norway. So why are we putting a Frozen attraction in Norway? But I will say that the attraction itself is cute. It is not an e-ticket. I'm sure they think it's an e-ticket. I don't think it's an e-ticket. I think it is on par with something like the Little Mermaid attraction that they opened at Magic Kingdom and California Adventure. In that it is a dark ride that retells Frozen. The animatronics are kind of cool. It's pretty, but at the end of the day, it's Maelstrom. There's almost nothing different about it, except you don't have to walk through a 10-minute movie at the end. So, I mean, there's that.
That's nice.
Yeah. But I would also say that waiting 3 hours to ride it, no. I mean, even with our hurricane crowds, I think our wait time was
It was still long.
Yeah, it was like an hour plus.
Yeah.
And I'm very glad we rode it, but I'm not going to go out of my way to like really ride it again. But I also understand that we're not the key demographic for it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Leighton is...
See, Leighton has an opinion.
He does.
Leighton thinks that it's great.
Now, see, Leighton, when he gets old enough, I'm sure he's going to love that ride. But
see, that's going to be something he grows up with, so he won't know any different.
Yeah, now, as far as IPs within Epcot, they have been kind of slowly rolling it out over the past few years. I mean, when they upgraded the Living Seas to the Seas with Nemo and Friends, that was use of an IP that I also feel kept true to Epcot at its core. I know a lot of people that, like, when I was growing up as a kid, even like some people like I talk to about the parks now, they always saw Epcot as the boring park because it's the educational park. But as a kid, I absolutely loved Epcot. I don't know what it was. Certainly, as an adult, I love Epcot because it's a beautiful park and
Food and wine.
Food and wine. Food and wine festival. It is worth the buzz. Just make sure you take out a second mortgage if you're gonna eat and drink your way around the world. How much did we spend overall just like eating? Well,
We didn't as much this time, but
well, no, because we weren't drinking.
yeah.
Yeah, so that
but-
saves a lot of money.
But
Yeah.
it gets pretty expensive.
Ton.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm just saying that, like,
Because each plate and each drink usually costs somewhere between $5 to $13, depending on what it is.
yeah, and like there
I mean,
are.
it sounds just like the food and wine that's at Disney California Adventure. It's the same thing. It's just outrageously expensive to a certain extent.
I don't know, like, how many booths you guys have over at DCA, but at
There are
Epcot,
so
there are like
many.
like
there's nothing compared to what you guys have at Epcot. Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't.
I mean, like pure
compare.
space right there,
And it's all so good.
It is. I mean, on occasion there are a couple things where it's like, okay, that wasn't a winner, but
Yeah.
like then you find something you're like, oh, I never thought. Oh, wow, this is fantastic.
What you were saying before, and I want to touch on it.
Yeah.
Because you talk at like 100 miles per hour, and if I don't,
I
shut
do.
them now,
I do. I apologize.
You're gonna end up on the other side of the globe
Yeah.
before I can say anything.
Enjoy the longest episode of Theme Park Duo ever, everyone.
Is that Disney has been incorporating IPs into their attractions and into things its entire life, but also at Epcot. So like your example is Finding Nemo,
Yep.
and The Living Seas, which I think is a pretty cool incorporation. I think that maybe it could have included a little bit more of an educational aspect. I mean, outside of the attraction.
Yeah, although they do maintain quite a bit of the educational aspect in there. I mean, like when you're actually in the area that was
around
formerly
the ride, not in the ride.
Right. I mean, like the ride itself is just the Nemo submarine voyage done as a dry dark ride with like a view into the aquarium at the end,
Which is cool.
But the post-show area, what was formerly Sea Base Alpha, still has an educational aspect to it. And so because of that, I think it does work in with Epcot well.
No, yeah, it totally does. And one thing that I was going to say is that since they've already kind of been doing this, do you think that because of the success of Universal and Harry Potter, do you think that the use of IP has now been put into overdrive because of that success that they're seeing? Now they believe, oh my goodness, this is the way of the future. This is the way we have to go. This is how we're going to make extra buco bucks to have something that people are going to recognize. Like, Nikki, do you think that's what is going on?
I don't know if it's direct cause and effect like Harry Potter to Epcot, but I think they realized it's a formula that works. People do think of Epcot as the boring educational park, and if you throw in an IP, it's a draw and it brings more people, and I just think that they figured out that that's what works, and so they're trying to put at least one IP in every country. And I don't mind personally, but I hope they keep a balance of the education. Like, even keeping a Norway video at the end or in the queue for Frozen Ever After. Something like that. Just a balance, I'd say, because I do appreciate the educational aspect and the fact that these countries that they have, the little sections for are so, like, authentic in a way, and they do really have cool educational aspects to them, and I just don't want that to get lost.
I personally agree with you, and I feel like our stance on this is also not so rigid as most people's because we didn't grow up with it.
Yeah.
We don't have this emotional connection and have formed like this almost like ownage of Epcot in a way, and like we have with our Disneyland or our California Adventure or things like that.
Yeah.
And we're a little bit more loose with how they incorporate those intellectual properties into Epcot. Now, would I love to see more new intellectual properties that they're creating, like Figment and Dreamfinder? Hell yeah. I would love to see more of that. But if we're gonna get like Ratatouille and Guardians of the Galaxy, I'm not gonna complain.
I think that Ratatouille is a very smart addition, and it was one of those things, like when it was announced at D23, I mean, even though I'm not gonna say I'm anti-IP, but like I am anti just frivolous throwing something into a park where it doesn't belong. But like the moment that they announced Ratatouille, I was like, geez, about time. I mean, that is something that, like, the moment that ride was announced at Disney Studios Paris, I was like, oh man, I really hope that someday they manage to put that in the France Pavilion at Epcot. And I think the general assumption was always that they were going to get rid of the Impressions de France film that is there and put the ride there. But from what I understand, they're keeping the film and they're putting the ride separate to it. And I think that's great. I think that is a great use of an IP in that, okay, you're in France. Hey, there was a Disney-produced film that takes place in France. We have a ride based on that. But while you're here, learn about France.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
that's-
would your opinion change if they decided to get rid of that video and replace it with the ride? Would your opinion have changed?
It would be a little more negative, but like at least they're still maintaining the core.
Yeah,
aspect of it.
because the ride is not educational whatsoever.
No, not at all. I mean, it is Spider-Man in a kitchen.
Yeah.
Yeah, essentially.
Yeah.
And I know that they're probably, like, Epcot was built for that educational reason. It is supposed to be a kind of throwback to each of the different countries, and that's something that they want to preserve and keep. So I don't see them getting rid of too much of the stuff that they already have, because the good thing about the Florida parks is they've bought so much land they can easily just expand and not have to worry about overtaking any type of property that they already have built upon. They can just expand upon that to make it bigger if need be. And because of the education of Epcot, and that's its stature, that's its baseline, I personally would like it if they would actually upgrade some of the educational aspects, like the French film, like maybe update it so that it's more relevant for today and more I don't want to say educational informative to the boring aspect, but like to make people more interested in probably wanting to go visit that country.
Yeah.
More engaging.
Yes. With the China 360 film, they actually have updated that a couple times, and I believe they're working on a new version that's going to make it seamless 360, which is pretty rad.
That's pretty cool.
That would be nice.
That is a great way to kind of take that existing type of attraction, but like bring it forward, bring it into the future. I know they've redone the O Canada film before. Now it's like hosted by Martin Short. Like it actually has been for like I think like at least 15 years.
Didn't they redo
it's time
American
for an update.
Adventure at one point?
They've redone American Adventure in that actually American Adventure's gone through several changes.
And same thing with Spaceship Earth for that matter. Like a ton of changes.
Spaceship Earth, absolutely. But with American Adventure, it was more just, we're going to sweeten the audio. We're going to make it feel a little less dated. The montage at the end, we're going to put some images in there that are maybe, a little more relevant to now. Like I know, the World Trade Center is visible in it now. But I also heard that they might be changing some of the celebrities that appear in the end. Like I think Lance Armstrong was, both Lance Armstrong and Tiger Woods were like part of the ending montage, and both of them might not be in the montage anymore because
why?
So
I mean, the guy has one testicle. Give him a break.
yeah. But he's got a lot of balls to be doping like that.
Oh, bazinga!
This is a family show.
In season 2, we're letting a little bit more go,
we're
just a bit
letting
more.
her hair down a little bit.
Yeah, it's more like PG-13 at this point.
Okay, okay, good.
Except you can't drop one F-bomb.
Now, I think what people also forget is that Epcot itself has gone through kind of a renaissance, like changes over the years. Now, some of those changes have absolutely worked. I mean, the Food and Wine Festival wasn't there day one, but the Food and Wine Festival, as well as the Flower and Garden Festival, have both proven to be very popular. But that even for the longest time, back when Epcot was solely the educational park, there were no thrill rides in that park at all. I mean, the closest thing to a thrill ride was probably Maelstrom, and even that wasn't their opening day. But World of Motion became Test Track. Horizons became Mission Space. When they added the Wonders of Life, they added Body Wars. That was a thrill ride that had certainly never been seen in the park. The Land Pavilion, when they closed Food Rocks, may it rest in pieces. I'll say pieces.
And crumbs.
Yeah. But they replaced that with Soarin'.
Which I think is a perfect fit in Epcot.
Yes. I will say, I do wish that at California Adventure, I wish they kept Soarin' over California there, but that Soarin' around the world absolutely at Epcot makes perfect sense. No, because the last time we were at California Adventure, we did Soarin' around the world, and I mean, it was a cool update, but at the same time, I'm like, this feels odd at California Adventure.
Yeah.
At Epcot, it feels perfect.
But also probably feels odd also because the Eiffel Tower is like going like at a 70-degree angle.
If you're not dead center, it looks so bad.
I've seen people selling shirts that say "Make the Eiffel Tower straight again."
I mean, that's always been my complaint about Soarin' is that, like, for all those people that say, "Oh, there's not a bad seat on that ride," there is absolutely a bad seat on that ride. In fact, I think you can find fewer good seats than bad seats.
The seats all the way to the right or left are horrendous.
Yeah. Now, kind of jumping back to like our Florida trip, when I did Flight of Passage in a Pandora,
I had to wait outside.
you did have to wait outside, but you got to walk through the queue, and the queue really is like one of the best parts of that attraction. I feel like the Soarin' effect isn't as bad in that attraction. I mean, like as far as the being all the way to the side and being kind of warped. I mean, I was not dead center. I was kind of like left of center. Like I think like they're like each level they're like 2 rows of 16, and like I was in seat like 5 or 6 of that first section of 16. And I mean, I didn't notice any of that with Soarin'. That was a sidetrack. But
Totally okay.
But the thing that does concern me with the adding of IPs into Epcot at the rate that they're doing, I certainly hope that it's more along the lines of either what they did with Nemo or what they did with Ratatouille. But with Guardians, I mean, unless it's going to be the Guardians are teaching Earthlings about renewable energy,
Yeah.
I feel like it is going to be a Frozen type situation in which it's like, okay, we're no longer Epcot, we're Magic Kingdom too.
Now, isn't the guy who's overseeing kind of this transformation of Epcot and these new additions and reworking of attractions, wasn't he part of the team that originally started working on Epcot way back in the day? Is something Fitzgerald or something?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he worked on that. So, do you feel like maybe he'll try to keep that in mind when building these new attractions and try to keep the spirit of Epcot there? So, like, I don't care if it's like exactly the same, like educational, as long as the spirit is there and you feel it,
Right.
then I'm content. But I do agree with you that I am a little concerned with the Guardians of the Galaxy. I mean, cool, this is gonna be great. We're gonna have a thrill ride in Epcot, another one, which would be fantastic. First of its kind roller coaster, apparently. Hoping they tie it into renewable energy of some sort, because they did have those batteries.
Those batteries
in the movie.
in Volume 2.
In Volume 2, they talked about how they were they could be used as explosives because they're so high energy. So maybe they'll tie it back into something so that it can be educational. I mean, we're all gonna have to wait and see. It's all speculation at this point.
Yeah.
So I mean, Epcot is gonna get IPs, and it's gonna get more than what we know of now. It's inevitable. It's going to happen.
I can certainly think of a few IPs that I'd like to see in the park that I think could work within Epcot's existing brand. But like in that you're bringing in the famous Disney IPs, but you're also keeping that educational experience. I mean, I think something like Inside Out, I think would work great in Epcot.
So there was that rumor that the Inside Out characters were going to be joining Figment in Journey into Your Imagination. Mm-hmm. How do you feel about that? Because personally, when I went on that attraction, as much as it is a shadow of its former self, a shell of its former self, I fell in love with it.
Really,
you did? It was. Yes, I did.
Okay,
I am a Figment fan now. Like
maybe
I thought it was just. It's also because I don't know the original. I don't know how good it was. So
I think that's it with us, is that
quality is the reason why I like it.
Yeah, I think that's it with us, is that because we did grow up with the original Figment, I feel like what they did to the and the Journey into Your Imagination with Figment is actually version 3 of the attraction.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Version 2 was much worse, and like even Disney said, okay, version 2, let's pretend like version 2 never happened. There was very little Figment in it. Like, I think Figment made a cameo, and like that was kind of the biggest complaint, not just from guests but also merchandise. It's like, look, we got all these Figment stuffed animals, we need to sell these.
Which I bought some. Yeah. I loved it.
Yep.
And see, right there, it worked. But I do think that the Imagination attraction could definitely use a revamp.
I think it does, but does it need Inside Out?
Honestly, I feel like maybe a Wonders of Life revival that uses the Inside Out characters could be great.
Yeah.
That would make a lot of sense.
Especially because I felt that Inside Out was kind of a modern take on Cranium Command, which was a show at Wonders of Life that I think is highly underrated. If you have not seen anything on Cranium Command, do yourself a favor and like YouTube it. Like I know like there are several videos out there that are even like loving tributes to it that showcase the attraction very, very well. But I feel in many ways like that was a precursor to Inside Out.
Yeah.
So like I'd love to see a version of a Cranium Command, maybe even done on a bigger scale, but that uses the Inside Out characters. I think that out of the existing Disney IPs, bringing into Imagination, I don't think Inside Out is the worst. In fact, like I'd say it's probably in the top tier there. But I also know that the idea of the Imagination Institute, in which you have Eric Idle's character there,
Yeah.
that was spawned off of Honey, I Shrunk the Audience.
Which, by the way, when I found out, because I had never been to Epcot, when I went there for the first time, and found out that was the Imagination Institute, my mind just exploded because I was like, "Oh my god, it's like Honey, I Shrunk the Audience. It was over in California. Now it's oh my god!"
Yeah.
Like I freaked out. Like I couldn't believe it.
But Honey, I Shrunk, long gone.
I
Yeah.
know.
So it's like they're
That's a
kind
way of shortening it. Honey, I Shrunk, gone.
Yep. So like now they are holding on to a theme that really doesn't exist anymore. And so I think that you can make it into something fresh and new. I would also love to see them revitalize ImageWorks on the second floor of that attraction, which has been standing but not operating and mostly in pieces for certainly over a decade.
For a long time.
Actually, I think that it's been closed to nothing ever since the original version of the attraction closed, and that was, I think it was like 98. So, oh my god, it's like it's been 20 years. It's been 20 years.
Yes.
And the stuff up there is just not doing anything. And I mean, I certainly remember me as a kid, I loved going up to ImageWorks and just playing around with all the stuff, like running through the light tunnel and like doing like the touchscreen painting, which at the time was amazing. Nowadays it'd be super lame. But I mean, there was just so much cool stuff in there.
And I think times like you just said, like you had fantastic memories doing this as a kid, but now those types of experiences are extremely dated based on the way technology has come, and I feel like those types of experiences now aren't what the mass of people want as much as
fair.
The Disney fans are gonna scream, hoop and holler saying we want this, we want that. It happens to be what the masses want, and the Disney fans happen to be the minority in that circumstance. I do think that Disney could do a really good job of incorporating these IPs and try to stay within the spirit of Epcot, but at the same time, look at other parts of Epcot and try to revitalize it to its former glory.
Absolutely.
So that you could at least appease two groups of people. The people who are coming there every single day spending a ton of money, and the people who are coming there experiencing it for the very first time who don't know what the former Epcot was.
And I mean, Epcot
and
now,
that could be like bringing back the first version of Journey into Imagination and bringing back Dreamfinder and things like that.
I think that there is a way to bring back Figment and Dreamfinder as they were presented in the 80s, but still make it a fresh take on it. But once again, like that would be reverting and like getting rid of the Imagination Institute. So like all of you Dr. Nigel Channing fans out there may be upset that Eric Idle is gone.
There's like 3 people screaming at
I
the
know.
radios right now. Like 3 people total.
But hey, guess what? You still got some classic Monty Python sketches and films. So I mean, if you really need your daily dose of Eric Idle, he's around.
Not gonna lie, seeing his big face on a moon is rather nightmarish. Don't really need that. I could live my life without seeing that again.
Yeah, there were good intentions in that attraction, but overall, I'm just like,
what's that saying? Is that the the road to hell is filled with good intentions, or something like that.
Paved with good
Is that
intentions.
Moon
Paved
in
with good
hell?
intentions.
Yeah.
What'd you say?
Is that moon in hell?
That moon is definitely in hell. Yeah, it's paved with good
it's
intentions.
just like
that's
staring
that's the
down on
statement.
you, like.
It's just like I just remember being in that ride, and I was like, okay, I'm enjoying this, and all of a sudden that popped up. I was like, I feel like I just dropped acid.
Well, if you think that felt like dropping acid, you would have loved the original Imagination, which was just an '80s trip at its absolute best. Now,
And that's also why I fell in love with Epcot, because Epcot has this dated feel to it, but in a very good way. Because a lot of times, if it's dated, that's usually not a good thing. But I feel like it has this nostalgic feel, even if I didn't grow up with it. If that's how you explain it, I don't know how to explain
that
that.
makes sense.
which I think is why so many adult Disney fans love Epcot, just because they probably went there as a kid and like they loved it as a kid, and I mean, there is kind of that fear, especially because I know that, like us as kids, even though video cameras were around, it's something that I actually kind of envy, like our son's generation, in that they're always going to have that ability to like capture the moment and to have it live forever. So, I mean, like the fact that like even like on your phone you can record HD, even like 4K quality, and that it almost is like being there. Whereas like the best that my wife and I have from like when, you know, we were little kids is, boy, I hope there's a VHS somewhere that was in that giant camcorder that my dad brought to the park. So I mean, really, we are living off our memories, and so when they do kind of change things, it's almost like they're erasing a sacred part of our past. Now I'm like, now I'm laying on the hyperbole very, very thick there, but I do think that that's how people look at it. Now, Epcot as it stands right now is still very rooted in the 90s. There was a big change that the park went through in '94 when they added Innoventions, and they were starting to build Test Track. They were, you know, about to close down Horizons, make that Mission Space. They had turned Universe of Energy into Ellen's Energy Adventure.
This is all Eisner, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Eisner and Wells, because because I mean, I still say that to me as a kid living around Disney World, 1994 was the greatest year. You had new Innoventions at Epcot. You had New Tomorrowland with Alien Encounter and Timekeeper at Magic Kingdom, and you had Sunset Boulevard and the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror opening at Disney MGM Studios. It was a great year to be at Disney parks. Also, The Lion King came out that year. There was just a lot with the company that went very right in 1994. Unfortunately, it's also the year that Frank Wells died, and I feel like a lot of the goodwill that came out of that year left with Frank. Yeah, because I know a lot of people view Frank as the person that kept Michael Eisner in check. So when Frank passed away, it was like Eisner pulling the reins, going, "Okay, let's do our thing." And then Disney didn't really have many great years after '94 in the parks. And
well, I mean, they had Indiana Jones Adventure open up after that, and a few other pretty big things. I mean,
However,
at that point, like you said, because Wells was kind of the one that kept him in check. Now Eisner was completely at the will of his son, essentially.
Yeah,
'cause that's the first person he would go to. He's like, "Hey, is this cool?" Just be like, "Yeah, that's pretty cool," and then just add rides based on his son's opinion.
Yeah, but then with all the changes that happened to Epcot, once it all kind of stopped, everything just kind of stood there and collected dust. I mean, I know like there were people that were upset that they were closing Ellen's Energy Adventure, but I also bet that those people didn't realize that that attraction had been there for like 20 years. And
yeah, and they do complain when they end up closing these things, but at the same time, ask them, when was the last time you went on this?
Yeah. When was the last time you saw
You probably don't ride it
on
every single time you come here.
Yeah. And I mean, that's an expensive attraction to run. I mean, those like moving theaters, they're huge. And so I mean, like if you're only letting in minor groups, it's like, what's the point of having this thing running, especially with all those animatronics? And I mean, at the time when it opened, it was a much needed update to the original Universe of Energy. But like even watching videos of it now, 20 years after it opened, a lot of the info is very dated just because we have learned a lot about energy in the past 20 years. And so,
True.
I mean, like, even then when they talk about global warming, it's like basically a cameo and that's it.
And now that you bring up that point, actually, in kind of the same way that Innoventions is kind of going the way of the dodo because technology progresses so quickly, do you think that moving away from educational aspect might be good because of the progression in which we learn about the world and certain aspects of the world at this point?
I think that moving away from the way education was done in Epcot in the 90s is an absolute must, just because the internet was around in 94, but it was at its infancy. I mean, I think like I might have had a AOL email address at that point, and it took like 5 minutes just to log into it. And then like we didn't have Google back then. We had Encarta. You know, it's like if I wanted to learn about the word, I had to pop in the CD-ROM and do it. Whereas like now, if I want to learn about the world, it's there. I can do it now. So because of it, the attractions that were in the original version of Innoventions would definitely seem old hat nowadays, just because you can get many of the same experiences, much of the same information on your own. But I also think about some of the things about the original version of Innoventions that were really cool. The Sega area. Tiffany, do you remember the Sega area at all?
You would have to remind me.
It was pretty much a giant demo area of Sega Genesis, Sega Saturn, Sega, like everything games. Sega game you wanted to play, it was there.
It sounds like Innoventions at Disneyland, where they had a lot of video games set up there as well, and their own video games that they created. And almost like a virtual reality. Nikki, do you remember the virtual reality seats?
The VR
where you
thing,
would,
yeah.
sit down and you sit down in the seat, you put your face in the thing, and the chairs would like swivel on their own based on like what's happening.
I remember. I just never bothered with any of that stuff.
Yeah, and then they had like
I
the
think they had
Segway
that at Test Track
things.
for a while too.
Yeah,
wrong,
so
yeah.
I mean, like they had all that stuff over here, like in its own version as well.
Yeah, but I do think that something like Innovention, because I think that Innoventions, much like the greatest science centers that are out there, that provide the really like kinesthetic experiences, not the ones where like you're being told things or you're being shown things, but like the ones where like you actually get hands-on with things. I mean, I know that for me, that was always the best way for me to learn, was to do hands-on experiences. And like things like Innoventions where like I could walk around, I could touch things, I could, I could experience new technology by using it. Things like that were really, really cool. But I also admit that back then we didn't have the smartphones that we do now. So I feel that a lot of the experiences that you could get back then, you can get on your own. But I still think that there are ways for it to be educational, for it to be fun. Because really for me, that was the best thing about Epcot, was that often I felt as though I was learning new things, but I didn't feel like I was being taught.
And that's what I feel like the countries are like too. It's like just by being there, you're learning something. You know,
Yeah.
you're even a kid. It's like you're seeing
Subliminal education.
Well, a little bit. Like you're like even just looking at the architecture, it's like you're seeing a monument that maybe later in like a school video, you know, you might go, oh wait, I saw that at Epcot. That's real, you know. And it's like you're learning without even realizing it and thinking like, oh, well, this culture is really cool. I like the way they do this. And so it's like you're learning through fun, kind of, and just through, like passively learning.
Yeah, and I do think that you have a point in saying, Stephen, that the way of education from the 90s, the way that they approached it, is very different.
Very.
And a little bit more on the nose than it would be now. Because I feel like kids now, because we have to think about this in the minds of, originally we were the targets because we were the kids that were going there. We were the impressionable ones. Now the new set of kids that are going to be going there are now the impressionable ones. How do we reach them? Because looking them in the eye and saying, don't do this because it's killing the earth, they're not going to listen to that. You have to reach to them in a very different way. I think you hit it on the nose there. I think that's the right way to go if we're going to be staying on the path of education.
Yeah.
But at least still being fun about it, like being more fun forward, if you will.
Yeah, and like I think like that's the point that like I really want to try to hammer home on all this, is that if there's a way to keep the educational aspect where like it is still root to the to the core that Epcot had when it opened. That's also another thing. Like, a lot of people, it's like, all this IP stuff, Walt would not have stood for this. Like, Walt's version of Epcot was very different than what opened in October of 1982. So, I mean, right there was already quite a bit of evolution from concept, and then it just kind of continues to evolve.
I mean, Walt probably wouldn't have been that happy about them saying, let's just put the two models together and call it a day.
Yeah, exactly.
I really hate when people use that as an excuse.
What,
like,
the Walt
the
excuse?
whole Walt would be turning in his grave. Walt wouldn't want you to change it. It's like, you don't know. Just shut up.
Nobody.
Yeah.
Nikki, just shut up.
Just shut up.
Just shut your
You don't
shut
know.
your trap. Just shut up.
Well, I mean,
He was
you
a
can
businessman.
you can always just defrost his head and ask him.
Right, yeah.
Just ask-
Yeah,
Well, I
exactly.
mean, he
Yeah.
has-
ask him.
Walt's Frozen Head has a Twitter account, so you
Yes.
can go ask him there.
Yeah.
I mean, he'll tell you everything, I'm sure.
I mean, he was about progress. He was about innovation, and it's like he was a businessman at heart. Like sell stuff. And so like I think he would welcome all these innovations and new concepts and things. So.
And if you think about it, the way Walt worked in Disneyland and Walt Disney World, at least when he had his hand in it, is he was already incorporating all of his intellectual properties he had acquired in his films. I mean, look at Fantasyland. Fantasyland is completely IP filled, and I feel like people don't think about that sometimes. Like when people say, "Oh, Disneyland, it doesn't need Star Wars, it doesn't need this IP there." It's like the whole
IPs
park is
everywhere.
IP.
Every single.
There's IP everywhere, and I think people don't
IP freely,
separate that IP freely. Exactly. I feel like people don't connect original Disney properties as IPs, and they have to, because the Peter Pans, the Mr. Toads, the Alices, the Snow Whites, that's all IP. And now that we have all these amazing films in the catalog of intellectual properties like Iron Man, like Guardians of the Galaxy, like Star Wars, and at this point, having bought 21st Century Fox, like X-Men, like Fantastic Four, use them. They should be used. I think it's a huge mistake not to utilize such incredible properties that have already shown themselves as being something that's people want.
Well, in Florida, there's a big legal hurdle in
With
regards to
Marvel.
like X-Men and Fantastic Four and like some of the other Marvel characters, thanks to the big old globe down the street that has their Marvel superhero island, and so because of it, Disney is limited on what they can do, which is actually great that the movies have existed within the Marvel Cinematic Universe, in that things like Guardians of the Galaxy and Iron Man, they weren't really represented at all within IOA. So by adding those things, they can say, hey, these are our things. And like notice, even at California Adventure, the word Marvel is kind of missing from the Marvel attractions. It's like even then it was the Summer of Heroes. So there is a little bit of that universal influence that kind of does, in that like they kind of have their thumb on Disney a little bit just because of the way the contracts work, to where like they say, yeah, you can have their parks, but better be careful how you do it.
Pretty much.
Now, I was going somewhere with this, and I can't remember where I was going.
Tiff, do you have an opinion on a lot of what we've been talking about? Because you've been a little quiet as of late.
Okay, so my view on Epcot in general. I remember when Epcot was mostly done by sponsorship. Like everything in the world was done by sponsors. Like what Test Track was sponsored by
GM, which actually Test Track is still sponsored by Chevrolet, but like Horizons was GE, and Imagination was Kodak, and The Land was Nestle. And,
So there was a lot of things that happened where it wasn't just Disney. They had to cooperate with the sponsors to get what they got, which is how Maelstrom came about with its randomness, because Norway wanted this and that, and the Imagineers said no, we want to do it with this storyline, and Norway was like, no, we have to add the oil rigs because that's what we do.
Yeah, and then suddenly like the ride track was like cut in half from like their original design, which is why You literally go from trolls to oil rig. Wow, what the hell's happening here? Well, it's because there were a lot of hands in the pot, and they all needed to get their own way. And
yeah, so you had that battle like constantly in the beginning, and that's what shaped Epcot to what it was, to what we know. And then now that they're steering more towards, Disney in and of itself, because now they're being self-sufficient enough for Epcot to kind of have Epcot stand on its own. And it's becoming a more popular park because they did add the Frozen because they wanted to add more ticket sales. So that was the best way to incorporate the ticket sales, was to add a IP that was, the most popular, which was Frozen at the time. So it was good on them so that they could encourage people to come into Epcot. And since they saw that big boost in attendance, it just made sense to continue with that, and that's why they're deciding to do it with Ratatouille and all this other stuff, which again, if it's property that they already own, it's easier to incorporate it instead of trying to get rights to something and bring it in. So I totally get it. I understand. Will I miss the old Epcot? Well, sure. Who doesn't miss, the good old days and what they grew up with? But I am glad that they are going forward and trying new things and putting new ride technology in and of itself into that park, because it hasn't had any new ride tech in since pretty much Mission Space was the newest that was incorporated.
I mean Soarin' opened after Mission Space, but Soarin' existed in California by that point.
Yeah, so I like that it's trying to incorporate new stuff again, which is what Epcot is about. It is about innovations and new ideas and things of that nature. So if a kid can go in and go on the new Ratatouille, trackless ride and be like, whoa, I wonder how this works. And then they decide to go into, that type of tech and engineering. Then by all means, Epcot has done its job of inspiring a kid to go above and beyond and do something that they might not have even thought about doing had they not gone.
Yeah, and ultimately, I feel like where we're going to end up landing on this conversation, and whether or not all of us have thought about it or not at this point, is if Epcot loses kind of its direction and doesn't necessarily continue on the path of education, and it's getting all these intellectual properties, it's getting throw rides, it's bringing in more people, are we going to stay away from it? No.
I won't. No, please.
Well, you said you will or you won't?
I won't. No.
No, yeah, you won't. We will all still go to Epcot, and we will reminisce on what it used to be and how it used to operate, but no one's going to stay away from it. And as long as nobody's staying away from it, there's no way that we're going to be stopping this type of change.
The only thing that I fear, and
is fear itself.
Yes. Which, by the way, you can experience that speech in its full at the American Adventure. So, definitely go check that out. But going back to what we were saying with, Nemo at the Seas. That is a great way to bring in an IP, but still keep Epcot at its most Epcot. The thing that disappointed me about Frozen is that I feel like that attraction, you could have put that at the Magic Kingdom. And
yeah.
But Magic Kingdom was already so filled with stuff, and they needed something new at Epcot.
Yeah, and I totally get why they did it that way, but at the same time, I'm a little concerned that with all these IP expansions, and I mean, even Pandora, as beautiful as that is, it does kind of go into this, all the parks are losing their identity, and they're just kind of becoming four parts of one thing. Yeah. To where it's like, and I mean, even with the California Adventure, the Little Mermaid ride that's there, why is that in the California park? Other than because they didn't have the space to put it over at Disneyland. It's like, I just get concerned that the parks are going to lose their identities. And
I think that's a fair fear to have, because, I mean, I kind of have the same concern when looking at a lot of the changes that are happening, because I do wish that rides are very specific to their theme parks that they're in. They should have a specific feel. They should have a specific theme that fits within that park. And when we're looking at changes happening, kind of like Pixar Pier. I feel like that's an unneeded change. I feel like they're getting rid of this original intellectual property that they created of Paradise Pier to replace it with this unneeded Pixar change and retheming the coaster and retheming the fun wheel and all this stuff, and it just feels like they're just kind of hodgepodge placing things at this point willy-nilly, regardless of whether or not it truly fits.
Now, at the same time, I said that exact thing about Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout, where it's like, what the hell is this? It's going to stick out. It doesn't belong in that park at all. And like, even though I still feel it doesn't belong in that park, they did a really good job with that attraction.
It's a fun ride.
Yeah.
It is.
I mean,
it is.
I mean, at the same point, that whole part of the park has a big fat issue because it's like Hollywood backlot, but then it's not really a backlot anymore. But then there's the Guardians ride, and how does that fit? In
which
the
is
context of everything.
Which is why, like, if the rumors out there are true, and that Bugs Land might be going way of the dodo to make it into a Marvel Land, since it does attach right by Guardians, then I'm all for it. Because, I mean, like, no offense to a Bugs Land, but I think a Bugs Land, if there is a land at California Adventure that could be renovated into something completely different, it's that.
Well, because if
that's
it's
also
any
why I was.
Disney movie
that's also,
that you definitely think of, it's Bug's Life.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
That's like the first movie I think of.
It's like A Bug's Life, The Black Cauldron, and The Computer Wore Tennis Shoes. Those are the Disney movies that I immediately go to every single time.
I know that Nikki and I are personally waiting for Darby O'Gill and the Little People.
Oh my god!
Crossing my fingers.
Or a Mr. Boogedy attraction. I'm definitely hoping for that. But I mean, like, I do think that Bugs Land. I mean, I'm shocked that Bugs Land isn't getting the axe at this point, and them moving forward with something else instead of Paradise Pier. But I wouldn't have a problem with that. And Nikki, I think you had something to say.
Oh, I just the topic of the parks losing their identities, and it's just like how wasn't there a rumor that Hollywood Studios wasn't going to be named Hollywood Studios?
Yeah, they were going to change
be
it to like Cinemagic or
I'm so glad that
Movie
didn't happen.
XL Park or I don't know, there's a whole bunch of bad
I
names.
feel like that's the way California Adventure is going, and if it stays California Adventure, it's simply going to be because the park's in California.
Yeah.
Like that's the only.
Honestly, I think that's the only reason why it's still named that.
Yeah, because there's nothing.
Other than like the Redwoods and maybe a slight Hollywood backlot feel in
which is
the
now,
Bay Area. There's really not much else that's truly California.
They're slowly
about it.
chipping away all the California bits.
Honestly,
It's,
I'm waiting for
pretty
them to
much just
change the name of the
becoming
park.
Disneyland 2.
Yeah.
Just they bring out the letters again, like they
Yeah.
used to spell it California,
Yeah.
but it just spells Disneyland 2. That's all it says.
It is a shame with all the changes that they're currently doing to California Adventure, just because I remember when they did that big change, like a decade ago, if that.
It wasn't even that long.
Yeah, and I mean that was a welcome change because like they opened California Adventure, it didn't work, but they said that's okay, we can make it work, and they changed it into something that had a very kind of retro but also timeless feel to it. That like I feel it's like this is what this park should have been at the very beginning, and like now they're saying okay, Pixar Pier. It's like whoa, wait a minute, what are you doing? You fixed Paradise Pier.
Yeah, and that's the reason why I have a problem with it in the first place. But that's also getting way off topic.
Yeah.
It is. It's like
But-
kind of the Disney parks as a whole with IP, although we're just talking about the place with the ball in the countries.
And some place about future rides and crap. I don't know. But I mean, it seems like we're getting kind of near the end of the conversation. But I think the concern of the use of IP clearly isn't just Epcot.
Yeah.
It's Disney parks as a whole. Mainly the mainland parks. I don't think it's really a big issue in other parks because I don't see them caring as much as we care about ours in the United States, because we have like this claim over them, like they're ours. Like, don't touch my ball. Like, don't touch my spaceship Earth.
They better not. They better not touch my ball.
Yeah.
Don't touch the ball, but
Is that what
updating
Lance
it would
Armstrong
be
says?
I was gonna make a Lance
Is that
Armstrong.
what Lance Armstrong says?
That is actually why they took him out of the American Adventure. There were just too many balls in that park already. Boy, this got blue.
But yes, I feel like the concern of IP isn't just about Epcot. It's all over the Disney parks, but I know that the strong feelings are mainly about Epcot. People feel very strongly about it, and people I don't know any other people that feel that strong about any other Disney park, to be honest.
I think it's because when you look at all the other Disney parks around the world, I mean, you have like Tokyo Disney Sea, which is very much its own thing. Like, there is no other Disney park like it. Epcot, there is no other Disney park like it. And like, I think because it always has been a little bit of the redheaded stepchild in terms of the parks, just because it is so different. And it always had that stigma of being the educational park. That, like, people are, like, always afraid that the masses are going to say, well, we don't care about this thing, get rid of it. And that Disney's going to listen to them just because, well, hey, you know, we need to go where the money is. So like, I understand as to why people do take it personally, just because I feel like the hardcore fans of Epcot do feel like they are in a fan minority.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it is something that's special to them. And change is important. Change is necessary. Change will happen whether we like it or not, but change needs to happen whether we like it or not. But I also feel as though, let's not completely change what this place was meant to be. I mean, Pandora at the Animal Kingdom, I mean, even though it does feel like something that should probably be at the Studios Park instead, there is still the strong wildlife presence with Pandora, so like, you can theme it into Animal Kingdom very well. Ratatouille, it being something that takes place in another country, is something that you can bring into Epcot. You have France there as like an expansion of an experience of French culture, but hey, we also had a movie that was about this. So like, the kids are going to go there to see Ratatouille, they're going to learn about France. The people go there to experience France, they're going to have a Disney thing to attach to it. I think I've heard rumors of a possible redo in the Mexico area to deal with Coco. I think that's a great idea. Great idea. But once again, it's because you are dealing with that culture. If they wanted to do something for Mulan within China, like I know they're working on like the live-action remake of Mulan, if they can make it worthwhile, by all means, do it. But in the case of Frozen and Guardians of the Galaxy, it almost seems like, hey, we really need to get these IPs in the park. Well, they kind of fit there.
Yeah.
It was a stretch.
Yeah.
A bit of a stretch. But I do think kind of ending a conversation on the idea that you kind of just touched upon is almost perfect. Is change is good, change is necessary, change is going to happen, but don't forget what made you what you were in the first place. And if that's Epcot keeping the flavor that it had all its life, even while changing, then that's what it is.
Much like Jennifer Lopez once said, "Don't be fooled by the rocks that I've got. I'm still Jenny from the block." And like, that's the thing, is that
I want to know,
as many rocks as Epcot
can
get, Epcot is still Jenny from the block, and it needs to remain Jenny from the block.
See, I want to know, how long have you been holding on to that?
That literally just showed up. It was like when you were talking about that, about like how like you have to remember your roots. I'm like, oh, like that song.
How does that pop into your head when we're talking about
I
Epcot?
don't know, but I'm glad
What popped
it
into
did.
your head?
Mufasa, like Spirit Mufasa in the clouds being, don't forget who you are.
Except it's Jennifer Lopez.
Jennifer Lopez. I'm Jenny. Thank you, Mufasa. Thank you.
I'm not gonna lie,
Block.
I would watch that movie.
But I think that brings us to the end of our conversation once we're starting to reference Jennifer Lopez music. But we definitely want to say thanks to you two. I know you guys are really busy with your brand new son. And
Yeah.
thank you for taking the time out to chat with us.
I'm just amazed that he has been sitting here the whole time, and like, except for a few little coos, and he has not said anything. So like, clearly we're raising this child at least kind of right.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, good job, Leighton. That being said, I'm sure the moment we end this broadcast, we're gonna change like 12 diapers. So much poop. There's poop everywhere.
That's how you know when he doesn't agree.
Yes, because he just poops.
He just shats everywhere.
So much poop.
Starting with Epcot, ending at poop. It's the natural cycle
Yep.
of life. No, it's not.
That could be a ride.
That could be a ride.
Parenthood.
It's a
Parenthood.
poetry. It
Yeah.
rhymes.
Parenthood. First you have the baby, then there's poop.
Yep.
Yeah.
The end.
The end.
It's like the ending of Mr. Toads. It's the same thing.
Yes. Ride
Except
your car, then
hopefully
go to
you
hell.
Don't go to hell.
You have a baby, then there's poop.
But I'm not interested in such fecal matters.
Oh, you are punny today, man.
Yeah, I am on fire, which is something that we don't want poop to be, because
Then you'll have Montezuma's Revenge, but that's a completely different theme park,
my back still hurts just thinking about that.
Yeah.
But anyway, thanks again for joining us. Really had a wonderful time chatting with you guys. As always, we definitely need to bring you on more often.
Yes.
Absolutely. So I guess we'll see you on another episode in about 2.5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably. That sounds about right. I honestly love having Steven and Tiffany on the show because they have such unique perspectives on a lot of different theme park experiences. And having that with us, and especially within the confines of this conversation that we had about Epcot, it's so interesting to hear them talk about it and then hear us talk about it and kind of our interminglings of opinions.
Yeah.
So, we want to thank Stephen and Tiffany for coming on and spending time with us to chat about intellectual properties in Epcot. Let us know on social media. Do you guys agree with what we're saying? Do you disagree with what we're saying? What are your thoughts on intellectual properties kind of coming into Epcot? We're interested to hear what you think.
Yeah, let us know.
So, before we wrap up this show, guess what we got?
I am guessing we got cake.
No,
Oh.
we didn't get. You were so sad. You were actually getting really disappointed.
I didn't eat dessert today.
Do you want me to go buy some cake? Or bring it
Yes,
back?
but let's finish the show first.
Okay. We didn't get cake. No.
Oh.
Something close to being as good, and it's really sweet.
Pie?
No. Why do you keep thinking it's desserts?
I don't know. You said it's close to cake and sweet.
No. Somebody wrote us a 5-star written review on iTunes.
Oh, that's not edible.
If anybody thinks that this was rehearsed, it was not. I had no idea she was going to say any of those
Sometimes
things.
I go rogue and just watch Gabe react.
That's not edible.
I made you cry.
You did make me cry. That made me laugh really hard. I was not expecting that. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
But we got a 5-star written review on iTunes.
Yay.
By Grind Staff. So I'm not quite sure
Huh.
what that means. I apologize if I just said something dirty.
Let's not try to interpret it too
Okay,
much.
moving on.
Yeah.
The title's A Great Podcast with a Phenomenal Duo. Hey, you guys, just wanted to reach out and leave a 5-star written review to say how much I've been enjoying your podcast. I've recently started listening and can't get enough of it. As a devout fan of theme park industry, particularly those in Orlando, and even more particularly Universal Studios, or specifically rather, Universal Studios and Universal Orlando Resort, I'm very happy with how you both cover both Universal parks and other parks as well. The joy, laughter, knowledge, passion, interest, and genuine nice voices to listen to is addicting, and I can't wait for more to come. Keep up the good work. Thank you very
That was
much.
so nice.
Thank you so much. This person actually reached out to us on Twitter as well to tell us that he's been really, really enjoying the show. So thank you so much for the wonderful review, and then also reaching out to us because, you know, not like we get written reviews, that happens all the time.
Yeah.
But not many people reach out personally
Yeah.
and say, hey, just FYI, you're doing a good job, and I really appreciate it.
It makes us feel good.
It makes us feel good. It
'cause
makes a
we-
difference.
We do the show for ourselves.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
don't make any assumptions that we're doing this for like a pat on the back.
Yeah, no,
we
it's
do
just,
this for ourselves
because
because
we
we're
want
nerds.
to. But it's nice to know that people enjoy listening to us chatter.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, like we've had a few people do that.
Yeah.
You know, like Orlando has done it.
Yeah.
Who went on like a honeymoon. I gave him tips because it was going to Walt Disney World and all that stuff, and he had a fantastic time. And the fact that we could help him and touch his life and make his honeymoon special, that made me feel really good.
Yeah.
And by the way, shout out Orlando and his brand new wife.
Slightly less brand new now.
Yeah, slightly less brand new.
Happy anniversary. I forgot how long ago that was.
I was gonna... Sometimes I have to censor myself like mid-sentence or like before I start saying things because I'm gonna say it, but I don't think it's that bad. But I was gonna, because you said slightly less new wife, I was like semi-worn-in wife. But I don't know how offensive that is.
I don't know if that's offensive. It's
just
odd.
rude.
No, it's just odd.
It's just odd. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Just checking. But anyway, like, I just really like that people take the time out to actually reach out like that because it makes us really, really happy and it makes a difference for us because we do put a lot of heart into this show and we put a lot of effort into this show and mainly because we enjoy it so much. And then we know that people actually genuinely enjoy listening to us, which I still find rather odd.
Yeah, a bit.
Listening to us babble and be kind of ridiculous nerds about theme parks. I still kind of am shocked that people enjoy that. But it isn't for accolades or pats on the back. It's for us.
Yeah.
And I'm just really glad that we actually are enjoyed by people.
Yeah.
So thank you for leaving that 5-star written review and thank you for reaching out to us. It makes such a huge difference.
Yeah, very nice. Better than cake.
Better than pie.
Better, yeah.
Yeah?
Well, yeah. Well, cake is better than pie.
No, it's not.
It is.
Pie's better than
No.
cake.
Well, it depends. Apple pie is better than cake.
What about boysenberry pie?
Boysenberry pie is also better than cake.
Thank you.
But that's about it.
What about Dutch apple pie?
What's the difference?
It has like the crumbles on the top.
Oh, streusel?
Yeah, the streusels.
Oh, that's better than everything else. Streusel wins.
Streusel wins?
Yeah. That's just it. That's the end of the statement.
That's the end of the statement. I was expecting more.
No, streusel wins. That's all you need to say.
Okay. Well, guys, if you want to leave us a 5-star written review, make sure you head on over to iTunes and leave it there. And because it always helps us out, it brings us up in the standings in iTunes, so it helps people find us and enjoy us like you are right now. Obviously, we will shout you out to the heavens when you do it, and maybe make some rude references and crap, like weird, odd references like I just did.
Who knows what we're gonna say?
Yeah, I like people script their shows, like a lot of the time. People script their shows.
Then you wouldn't get gems like cake.
That's not edible.
That's not edible. Yeah.
People script their shows. I don't. I have bullet points of things we need to talk about, and then I just gotta go. just go.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm gonna say. So if you want to see what I'll say, leave a 5-star review. Or what dessert Nikki is going to associate your review with.
Make it a poll on Twitter.
What poll?
Just make it a poll. What dessert should Nikki have?
What dessert should Nikki have?
What dessert should my pregnant wife have?
Pie, cake, cookies, brownies.
Well, throw in frozen yogurt.
And frozen yogurt.
Yeah.
Okay, all of those. I'll make it a poll just for you.
Thank you.
I will do it. You know I'm not joking, right?
No, I know you're not joking.
Okay.
But then you have to get me whatever wins.
Oh, gosh dang it. Fine. I hope. No, I'm just gonna throw ice cream in there just so that I could go down to the ice cream place down the street.
No, that's with frozen yogurt.
No, that's not frozen yogurt. That's legit ice cream.
Okay, never mind. Don't put frozen yogurt. I want the ice cream.
Okay, cool.
Everybody vote for ice cream.
Okay, enough about food.
Okay.
Our whole last episode was about food.
Yeah, let's finish. I want dessert.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning into this week's episode. We really hope that you enjoyed it. If you haven't already, make sure to head over to social media. So that's Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and Periscope. And follow us at Theme Park Duo. You can find us on all of those social media platforms. We're covering different events, our trips to theme parks, which is a lot, and things like that. And if you want to reach us and send us a letter saying how much you enjoy the show, or what dessert Nikki should eat, or hey Gabe, you offended me with your jokes, make sure to send us an email at
themeparkduo@gmail.com.
And once again, thank you so much for listening to this week's episode. And always remember, there's always a great big beautiful tomorrow. See ya!
Thanks for riding with the Theme Park Duo. Make sure to gather all your belongings before the end of the podcast. Bye-bye.